Pharmacy, Port of Spain, Living Legacy Arima, Maranatha in Sando. For more info, call 768-8214. And for the first time at the Shore Park Complex in Tobago, the day before the holiday, Wednesday, 23rd August, 7 p.m. Tickets $200. Available at the Gentleman Barber Spa, Coconut Cafe, and Pablo's Supermarket. For more info in Tobago, call 320-2249. Why did I get married? 7 women, 1 lawsuit. Man shortage in the church? Let the bacchanal begin.
In this day of stay at home and work from home, home has never meant more than it does today. Whether you're looking to buy, rent, or build your new home, now is the time to get going. Gittins & Gittins real estate agents are here to take you to that place of your dreams. Let us take you home. We help you find that rental to rest along the way, or journey with you to find your home destination. Investors and commercial enterprises too, call us and we'll walk the distance to place your business in just the right location. Owners, leave the headaches to us. We'll find your tenants or buyers while you stay at home. We'll even manage your property at your bidding. Anything real estate, come home to Gittins & Gittins Real Estate. Call us at 760-3280 or 747-1220 or visit us at 16 Fifth Street in Woodbrook.
WESN.
We are often imitated but never duplicated. Other shows miss the point because we're the one and only Talking Point. I'm sure Michael Small. This is Talking Point on WSND Content Capital. Do not fall for any fraudulent copycats. Now, a lot to get through before we welcome usual Friday guests, but scheduling conflicts has required that we have him here today. So he should be on later. But in the meantime, there are a couple of things outside of his usual wheelhouse that I want to mention, to get to. One of the things, I don't know if I'm sure you all experienced yesterday, the fiber breaks, the interruption of service. I particularly noted it with regards to mobile data. And unfortunately, it was a day when I was not necessarily traveling a lot, but I was in a position where I would have preferred to have my mobile data. Now it was a situation with multiple breaks. So the question has to be asked, was it vandalism? I feel, however, very strange about it because it seems as though that there are too many things where there are threats that seem ridiculous, there's mischief makers, and I guess now my psychology runs the risk of being overtaken by a complete cry-wolf situation where I'm going to find it difficult to believe anything outside of some extreme act of violence. So I guess part of the question is, because they're looking into it, if it was one break, I might think that vandalism is not necessarily the place where you should start, although you do have to investigate to make sure. But I think this is a situation where, because it's multiple breaks, the probability goes up. It's kind of difficult to see where, you know, some sort of natural occurrence could cause multiple breaks, assuming it's in multiple locations. They haven't disclosed the locations of the breaks. But then it comes to another point, a scary realization. And that scary realization is, it is the veneer of control that potentially is being shattered by all of these things. That crime is under control. That crime can be prevented. One of the main ways crime is prevented is by showing people consequences. And one of the things that we fail at is follow through, so that we can interact with individuals who commit crimes as a society, the interaction being catching them and inflicting upon them reasonable and just consequences. And we don't necessarily do that. So now begs the question, what exactly is going to prevent this from happening again? It's similar to the bomb threat situation. What's going to stop the bomb threat situation from happening again? The minister said that there will be arrests. I can't remember if he said that the arrests will be soon or if they're working on it. But the fact of the matter is the police, they had a press conference and they said, well, investigations are continuing. It is actively being pursued through collective effort between the special branch and the cybercrime unit. And we will update the public in the shortest possible time, but no one has been arrested as yet. I don't think I'm necessarily being a prophet here when I say if you take bomb threat, a very real one, not just a hoax, and you take sabotage to our communications infrastructure, you put those two things together with someone that is creative and twisted and malicious enough, and you could do some things. And what is in place to stop it? The state of emergency? Yeah, the state of emergency is working. It's working because it allows the government to massage the numbers into a palatable figure. 300, not 600. Oh, look at that, we're winning. But the fact of the matter is the deficiencies in the police service that the Minister of Homeland Security can, by the perception of some, be perceived to be defending those deficiencies for reasons one can only speculate about. One could only consider rumors and speculation and question if they have any bearing as to why certain policy decisions are being made. Why certain expenditures are not being made. Why certain protective measures for police officers are not being made. Deficiencies in the police service are not being fixed. Therefore, by that measure, how can we be confident that the current leadership, from minister to commissioner, is adequate? Because essentially, it might be different in some of the details. But at the end of the day, this dude is no different from Euler. So it would be a disservice and unfair to Euler with Christopher for me to give Alexander Guevara a pass on all the things he does wrong, on all the things he can't do, on all the things he messes up. And the minister seems to be in lockstep with him. And the government's leadership seemingly approves of all of this. Because at the end of the day, all we care about is the made rate number, right? That's what they complained about. What's funny is that when the made rate was high, the police said, well, crime is more than the made rate. Not that the made rate is low. Oh, you bet your dollars. Oh, made rate is low. Made rate. Now, to be fair, the police aren't really pushing the narrative, made rate is low, everything is great, nothing to see here. They are willing to come out and say, yeah, but at the same time, we don't necessarily see a sense of urgency from the police in their communications, right, to tell us that the made rate is down, but there are critical things that are still not up to par. And at what point is it due to the fact that the boss might not necessarily want to talk about those things, might not have an answer for those things. Because if the police talk about it, then the reporters will at some point ask him questions about it. And forgive me if I believe that he is not capable of answering those questions. Murders are down, but the detection rate is no better. Home invasion seemingly is up in some places at least. And let's not forget, bomb threats and threats against government personnel has never been higher. So much so that the Prime Minister had to reverse her decisions on cutting out unnecessary security details. It's almost as though when she said that she'll cut out security for ministers that's unnecessary, that was all just for show. Because the minister didn't have money for body cameras, but they found money for police posts. They found money for police posts, which I expect the way that they're implemented, it will be more a political stunt than an actual, well thought out, long-term, sustainable police measure that's going to have any lasting impact on crime as a whole. It might have lasting impact in the immediate geographic vicinity within walking distance. Past that, I have no guarantees. I expect none. But more importantly, even if it works, you have to ask yourself, did the cost-benefit ratio mean that this was the best thing to spend money on? Because if there is another shooting, I am sure every time there's a police shooting now, I will highly doubt there will be any sort of public camera whose footage will be mysteriously discovered after the fact that the officers never saw before. I won't doubt if they would try to confiscate all private footage. Maybe they won't. But I will have a conniption if there's another police shooting like the Samaru one. Because from this point on, and it might have already happened and we just haven't seen the proof of it, but from this point on, any deaths like that, we know where they lie. Any unfair, according to the side of police officers and the commission and the minister, criticism of the service, we know where the blame lies. Because people didn't want to do the obvious thing, the right thing. One could argue the necessary thing. And now we're going to have police posts. I mean, 30 of them, they say no small chump change now. And they're going to be going with the army. I feel like there needs to be a protest movement that's not going to march on anything, but rather is going to basically tell people, this is what you do whenever you're interacting with police. This is what you say up front, and you take out your phone and you start recording them. And if they slap the phone out of your hand, there's a fund to sue that person in small claims court, that officer. If they don't want video, then we might need to have our own video. Obviously, that is not a budgetary priority. Obviously, the safety and the reputation of the TTPS is not a priority for the Minister of Homeland Security. Obviously, he doesn't actually care about the service. He cares about other things. He cares about what's going on with San Fernando East, because in one report, there's a condo in Florida, and look how expensive it is. And I have seen things, and it amazes me. Because he says something about doghouse or outhouse to White House. Except, as far as I'm aware, Bragg Manning was neither poor before he became an MP, nor Is it that his wife earns zero income? So I think you need a little bit more than that. And this is the point. I don't think he has or has offered anything more than that. A property was purchased. That's nice. You have to actually prove the money came from a misbegotten source. Prove that he could not have earned the money legitimately otherwise. Because if all we go by is who have expensive house as an elected official and who have fancy car as an elected official, well, dare I ask, that's basically Parliament. And granted, I know that there's going to be this corruption that got some of those houses and some of those cars. But isn't it convenient that you're jumping on a bandwagon? Because sophistication of thought and strategy is not necessarily something that I expect from politicians. Because if you want to investigate one MP for corruption, why are you ending there? How convenient it is that you have this relevant distraction when you have repeatedly or repeated the point that you don't want to talk about the cost of the police post. It's almost like if you have something to hide. Yourself. Dare I say, what actually is going on with the contracts for the police post? Should we ask those questions? Who actually got those contracts? How much those contracts are worth? Because I wonder if the reason why you don't want to reveal how much was paid to build the police post is the figure to build it and what people might estimate the actual cost of building such structures to be. I wonder if those two things, never the two shall meet, because they are so far apart. Who knows? Unfortunately, you have damaged your reputation enough that I cannot, in good conscience, give you the benefit of the doubt. Meanwhile, you running to the paper saying, I have seen things, and giving us a dog and pony show. Here's the thing. Aren't you the same guy that said, well, we can't reveal things to the public? Oh, Samaru got shot, he died, well, we can't talk about things to the public. It's an ongoing case. It's an ongoing case. Take your own advice and shut your mouth. Stop being hypocritical, inconsistent. Stop utilizing rules when it's convenient to you. Oh, it's not a case yet. Yeah, but it might be. All of that thing about the protesters and how they might influence the... Stop influencing things. The protesters can influence the DPP if they protest. Oh my gosh, look how wrong this is. But you could come and speak to the press. I am amazed. Oh no, that's not prejudicing anybody at all. That's not hypocritical at all. Principles have to be applied equally. Otherwise, they're not principles, they're merely preferences. It doesn't matter that he is from the other party. You are the Minister of Homeland Security. As the Minister of Homeland Security, you serve all of Trinidad and Tobago. If you don't understand that, and given the rumors about you, it's questionable if you could. Then, similar to Reginald Lamore not understanding his role as the AG, Colm Imbert not understanding his role as Minister of Finance. If you ain't up for the task, well then, I really don't have much hope for you left, to be honest. Meanwhile, the situation in San Fernando, the opposition leader is going to speak about it today, apparently. I'm not sure if it is in time or if it is potentially too late. Now this is the problem. They have shown a vulnerability, right? And that vulnerability has therefore given someone the capacity to leak something to the minister who is going to be a witting accomplice to someone else's political machinations because he thinks it's a good idea, all the while egging on the police with regards to the investigation, and he's not supposed to have any authority to call for. Right? And the thing is, from everything I've been told, there's something going wrong with San Fernando East. Brian Manning is not necessarily wrong. He just doesn't know how to go about it the right way, which is a problem that cannot be allowed to continue. But whoever sent whatever to the Minister of Homeland Security, again, now, if there's evidence of corruption with it, I don't believe the minister spoke directly to that. And in that case, again, you should shut your mouth. Right? But with that said, because, I mean, let's just talk about the cases that might be before the courts, that the police might investigate. Let's just talk about them out to the public when it suits us. 4 months, you said nothing about the Samaru shooting. You didn't even say that there was a gun. You couldn't even say that. Which was stupid because 4 months later, oh, there was a gun. Now no one believes that there was a gun. Who's going to believe that there was a gun magically reported 4 months after the fact? That she had a gun in her hand. It looks like a lie. That's what it looks like. It looks like not just a lie, a poorly crafted one. Oh, but in this situation, you could talk all kind of nonsense. But say nothing. I am amazed. I am amazed that you are amazed. Which is double sarcasm because I doubt he's really amazed. He's just performing for the camera. What this means is similar to whoever within the government potentially leaked the Star Sabga audio, whoever sent this to the Minister of Homeland Security, if they are technically part of the PNM, maybe part of that resigned executive or whoever they are aligned with, that's a cancer. That's a cancer that potentially should be excised, uprooted, taken out. Just saying. Especially if this is literally just a situation where somebody bought a house with their own money. Yes, it might not look good that a politician has money. Once they earn that money on their own, maybe themselves, maybe with their joint income with their wife, maybe because they had a mortgage, I don't know. Once there's nothing ill-begotten with the gains, then this looks like another Star Scarborough situation, to be honest. And I would have thought that members in cabinet would have been smart enough to know, let's not necessarily do something that might look like the thing that we just did to make us look stupid. Let's not do that again. But, you know, no one ever accused the government of being good at their jobs. So this will be interesting to see. Oh, my mistake. It's not Brian Manning's house. I am sorry. I totally misread that. I still stand by what I say. You have to prove the source of the funds. And you should not be speaking about, oh, I'm amazed. Now it will be interesting to see who supposedly bought this condo. And I really hope that it was not Brian Manning or anybody on his team that did it. See, before I didn't necessarily know who. Now, I really hope it wasn't Brian Manning. And again, this goes right back, as I said before, don't make it public. Now I don't know, again, was the opposition leader too late to speak about this? And here's the unfortunate reality. It's not that I think that she's weak and incapable. But if there are enough situations in the moment that demands a certain response, whether we like it or not, and she can't actually make it, well then, where does that leave her, unfortunately? And one of the things, to be fair to politicians, it's not always easy to know what is the right thing to do in the moment. I said that about Brian Manning, but at the same time, you do the wrong thing, you don't know, you might feel it's right to speak out publicly. And I could understand making the mistake. That does not shield you from the consequences of said mistake. So, this situation now, it's going to be picked at, whether fairly or unfairly. And the timing of it, I think, is what makes it bad. Because the party is not ready to withstand any kind of controversy like that. And the more it is mishandled and the more it blows up, the greater the fallout. The question is, who is going to have to bear the brunt of the consequences from the fallout? What should have been a simple situation escalated. Now, I don't necessarily know or think that it was escalated on purpose, but rather it is something that somebody waiting in the wings might attempt to take opportunity to affect change. And as I said yesterday, I'm not necessarily happy to look at one of our alternatives have their business settled in such a manner. Because it makes me think this is not about doing grunt work, this is not about earning trust and respect, this is not about proving yourself, this is about Potomac two-stepping your way into a position that you might not be good enough for. That you technically would not have earned it when it came to earning it in the eyes of the public off of merit. You earned it by outmaneuvering people. But political maneuvering and governing are two different skill sets. Sometimes they interlink, they overlap, not always. All right. Let's take a break. And we should welcome our guest, friend to the program, Ashraf Ali. Stay tuned. This is Talking About AWS, and we'll be right back after this.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Your health matters, and the answers you need are just one conversation away. What's Up Doc is back for an exciting season 5, and we're bringing to you Trinidad and Tobago's leading medical professionals to discuss the issues that affect you and your family. From prevention and treatment to wellness and the latest medical technology. Get trusted advice, ask your questions, and stay informed. We also have an exciting new addition to the What's Up Doc family, our very own fitness instructor, Elena, who will provide easy, practical exercises you can implement in your daily routine. So don't miss What's Up Doc, Season 5, only on WESN, the content capital. Because when it comes to your health, knowledge is the best medicine.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
In this day of stay at home and work from home, home has never meant more than it does today. Whether you're looking to buy, rent or build your new home, now is the time to get going. Gittins & Gittins real estate agents are here to take you to that place of your dreams. Let us take you home. We help you find that rental to rest along the way or journey with you to find your home destination. Investors and commercial enterprises too, call us and we'll walk the distance to place your business in just the right location. Owners, leave the headaches to us. We'll find your tenants or buyers while you stay at home. We'll even manage your property at your bidding. Anything real estate, come home to Gittins & Gittins Real Estate. Call us at 760-3280 or 747-1220 or visit us at 16 Fifth Street in Woodbrook.
And we're back here and talking about the WSND content capital, often imitated, never duplicated. And one man that cannot be duplicated is, of course, Ashraf Ali, joining me via Zoom, counting down the days, weeks, months, but not years. Ashraf, welcome back.
Thanks, Sean, and good morning to you. How's the weather treating you today?
It's nicer today. I found it was weird yesterday morning, and it turned into a flooding situation. I found it was hot, and I don't know if you have noticed this, but I find there's a difference with the look and feel of the morning versus the afternoon. And I found that yesterday morning. I'm like, why does it feel like it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon? And I didn't like it, and it was hot. And then the rains came, and it wasn't where I am in Woodbrook. Because I was in Woodbrook for the entire day. It wasn't necessarily long sustained rainfall, if my memory serves correct, but what rain did come did cause a lot of water on the roads, and I could easily see how other places flooded. And it just brings me back to I would have hoped, this is what I would have hoped, a new government would think, hey, this flooding thing, maybe we could do some capital expenditure to improve infrastructure with regards to drainage, as well as water capture. Go to flood-prone areas, figure out where we could put new reservoirs, new basins, new canals, so that when, we have water shortages, because ironically, WASA just announced water shortages. Because there's an El Nino, so we're supposed to have less rain than normal. We've had some heavy rain this week, but we're supposed to have less rain than normal. So I just feel that we flood and we have water shortages. Surely there's a solution in there somewhere, Ashraf. And I'm sure, of course, for disaster management, part of it then would also have the benefit of not just using the water, but preventing the flood damage.
So true. So that's why I brought it up, because for the last couple of days, you got some heavy rainfall, and we know that we are prone to landslips and flooding and flash flooding, as the case may be. Now, I agree with you that the government should do this administration should look at it from a different perspective and look to harness as much of this water that we have, because we're in an El Nino and we always have water shortage. But at the same time, I didn't see the flooding very significant, because I have seen a lot of drains being cleaned and cleared along along a lot of the routes around Carney, going up to the east, and I would say that they were actually proactive in their approach. Not 100%, but I think it's a plus a plus for them in a positive direction. So the minister works did in fact I would say that is a plus. So yes, so let's hope that they continue along this line, and then we figure out some other way to harness some of this natural water that the Almighty give us, because when it comes a lot of persons find it, the irony is that a lot of persons are suffering from water, actual tap-borne water, and WASA is complaining about shortages, and we have all that water wasting all about the place.
Because I believe if you have better infrastructure for water capture, drainage and capture, but not drainage to the sea. Now, it might be difficult in some places like, south of Port of Spain, South Key, etc., etc. But if we generally had better infrastructure to capture water, for water to drain away from flood-prone areas in particular, but also in just certain instances where the flooding might not be the water settling, the flooding might be the water passing through. Not only could it potentially help with flood mitigation, but the water capture and drainage elements would add to the infrastructure even when the rains aren't that heavy, because we'd still be taking on some of that water that might be lost. Now, granted, some of the water probably, we have groundwater, it goes into the ground, right? So again, it's not necessarily straightforward, but a good chunk of it, I'm sure, goes into rivers, goes into streams, goes into the ocean, and that's the thing that you mentioned. When we have a situation, and we see this all the time, flood-prone during heavy rains, and then prone for water shortages at times while we have heavy rains. And that's the disconnect. Because if there's technical reasons why we can't solve the problem, I'll accept that. But I need that to be explained. And then I guess, Ashraf, I need the country, I believe, is woefully ignorant of these situations, of the requirements on construction, on drainage, on where to build, how to build, that we are setting ourselves up as time goes on to be in more and more problems. Because wasn't it one government project was in a flood-prone area? And when people build on hills, and when people just put concrete all over their property whenever they have a construction project, and how much consideration is being given to drainage, and it compounds. Look, by the entrance to the diplomatic center, there's a bridge by Boy Scouts. That bridge captures water. It captures water. It's a bridge. The bridge was designed in a way that it allows water to settle on the bridge. It's over a river. You would think that the water, it would be designed for the water to go straight to the river. No, the bridge, someone made a bucket out of a bridge. So depending, and especially now with the new electric vehicles, crossing that bridge during heavy rains might be dangerous, and the river water might not reach the level of the bridge yet.
Well, the irony about it is this, and I'm building up to it, because we're talking about water, we're talking about shortages of water, and then we jump into the whole argument of the Queen's Park Savannah that is, in fact, our watershed, where it is now being paved for independence. And the argument of whether or not we damaging our watershed and our storage of water. These arguments, when you listen to the type of the irony behind all of this, I just really want to believe, I really want to believe if we really understand what type of arguments that we just really want to, or the type of issues that we just want to bring to the forefront. You know? I don't see an issue with the paving of the location, because it's not paved in terms of pitched area. It's water can still seep through and get it back into the aquifers. Mm-hmm. So there is no issue with respect to the amount, how much it can, whether we have seepages or not. No. Even if you have that, like let's say that amount of rainfall in a short piece of time yesterday, seepages only could seep a certain amount of rate, a certain rate over a period of time, because that amount of you will have runoff. So there is no issue or argument about, okay, well, all our water is going to just run. No more water is going to the aquifer, because that argument doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. I think this whole thing about with the independence and removing it from the north stand on the paved area and bringing it on the outside, it has plenty more to do with politics than politics and plus some finance. Some finance as opposed to anything else. No. Before I go there, I just want to say happy independence to Trinidad and Tobago. And we actually having an independence parade this year, notwithstanding all the issues of bomb threats and threats to national security personnel. We still have an independence, so that means that our democracy is still intact, and I believe that holistically, we're nowhere close to the type of environment other countries have when persons make mischief of this nature. We can say, hey, we know for a fact, listen, we can't take the risk because we could end up in potential casualties. Thankfully, Trinidad and Tobago and the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago thus far don't go down that road, and I think it augurs well for us in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, we have some issues of crime, but when it comes to those type of terrorist type activities, I think we nowhere close to that, and we on the scale lower down to the 0 as opposed to the scale going up to the 10.
Well, I will not respond to that just yet. I want to stay to the situation with the ecological water table part of the argument, because the thing is, I saw some of that too, but what I didn't understand was I didn't see concrete go down.
Nope.
And I did a quick Google search and I saw a video, and from what I understand, it is some sort of aggregate material they're putting down as a base for what seems to me obviously to be temporary structures. I drive by that at least once a day, right? I have yet to see anything that makes me think, oh my gosh, they're gonna put a whole facility there, right? Now, one could question the financial, how is it financially responsible to put a set of money to build a temporary structure? And I question, did you really need to move it? I understand the North Stand is up and it's in the way. Couldn't you potentially modify the parade to take into account that the grandstand is there? I don't know. Just for the sake of not putting down having to spend extra money, right? But I agree with you. If it is mounds of aggregate material and you know, some sorts of gravel type situation, the water literally will run through that. It's not concrete where it's going to be and as you point out, even if it was concrete, it will just run off the concrete and into the ground, you know, because we're not talking about a large, it's not even that large. And that's part of what I find very interesting. It's like, this is quite a small setup. Is it necessary to do it this way? I'm not sure. But it is what it is.
I think,
go ahead.
I think the initial setup was they're using the actual field between Park Savannah, the open spaces. These are just access points that are making it easier for personnel to get in and out. Remember, the president and the president and all the officials are driven into the location and placed in and handed over and seated. So the vehicles they wouldn't be stopping on the road and walking in. So,
right.
So these are access points. These are access points. So when the two Bailey bridges for in and out proper access. So you have to put a proper access for reasonable enough for vehicles to go in, right? Because it's not a road per se. You're gonna keep that road for heavy traffic over a regular period of time. But this is just temporary for the purpose of that, for access to go in. Eventually, that they could remove somebody's topsoil from it, and it will be there. But the Bailey bridges, the two Bailey bridges, is important. No, and the stands are being built to accommodate the VIP and putting tents. Now, the issue there has always been an issue with breaking down the north stand and reconstructing the north stand.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you break down the north stand, it has to be stored. There's a storage fee attached to it. Then you have to reconstruct. So there's a reconstruction and transportation fee. Those fees over the years, from my information, has been very extremely exorbitant for bringing and installing, and it's time consuming. The value of these, and if it is that we are seeing at the National Carnival Center or NCC's venue, it should be utilized much more, and to generate more user facility much more for other events and other activities. There is no need, in this is my opinion, there is no need to demobilize, reconstruct on a regular basis, because that amount of money we're talking about, and we're talking about in the millions.
Mm. Well,
right?
not just that, there's also theft, apparently.
Right, and from my experience and my knowledge, there has been a lot of controversial issues when it comes to security, when they are reconstructing and breaking down and moving. There was also some conflict with persons who I should say want to eat our food and threatening the contractors and all of that. And there's another cost attached, because there's a cost attached for adding additional security. And I'm talking about police officers 24 hours on the site when this is being done on a regular basis. And then you have to continue to prepare. You have to prepare the location on the ground. So it takes a lot. And so this may be a temporary for the independent, this independence, and if it works the way I guess the planners hope, it can be a fixture right through. So it just shows that Independence Day parade may not always have to be in the city of Port of Spain. It can be utilized. It can be utilized, or the event can be hosted in other areas in Trinidad and Tobago. So because it's just that you're talking about having sufficient space to have everything that you want or the activities of independence and carry to another location. But historically, Independence Day has been in the city of Port of Spain, right? And people get accustomed to that, and that is what they want. So it's just you just move from one space, one area to another. But however, there's a lot of, I could smile now because I wouldn't be involved in that traffic issue. I would not have to be worrying about that traffic for me to be managing that traffic. So I can relax home and say, hey, and tell my fellow colleagues all the best of luck, and I hope that you all have a successful independence in managing it. I will be home, kick back and relaxing.
You see, the problem is, I would love for these things to not be in Port of Spain, because when they're in Port of Spain, more often than not, they're at Napa, they're at the grandstand, they're by President's House, something like that happens. And basically, once you disrupt the savannah, Cascade St. Anne's, we're stuck. We're stuck, you know, hoping to maybe bypass things in Belmont, which again, you know, that's essentially a single-way thoroughfare. So as opposed to filtering out into the savannah. So I at times will be trapped in my own home because of that traffic. So I would love for it to be somewhere else. But one of the things I do find interesting is that, technically speaking, the Independence Day Parade is not necessarily by any major government institutional building. The grandstand, the savannah, I understand it has the space, but I think part of the allure of doing it in the capital, because if you have anything like this in the American capital, you would, you know, they would have the Capitol building or the White House or whatever landmarks that is connected to the government, right, as potentially part of the celebrations. Whereas, because I wonder, perhaps the parade, there's a square, there's a large street area. I don't know if it could happen in front of the Red House. I don't know if it was more symbolic if it happened at the Red House as opposed to in the savannah. But the thing is, the tradition is now on one way or another in the savannah. So I understand what you said. That's what the people expect. You know, that's what the people, they wouldn't necessarily want to see a change at this point. But I just find it interesting because technically, if we could just have it on ground, that's TNT soil, because that's essentially what the savannah is. As you pointed out, we could have it in some other open field situation, some other historic site. Yep. But I guess part of it, Ashraf, won't it technically complicate matters if you want to move it? Because in theory, people know what to do when it's in the savannah. Now the difference is they technically moved what part of the savannah it's in, so everybody's going to have to make adjustments anyway. But at the end of the day, it's a known quantity, the savannah, the traffic situation, and how to deal with it. And if not for the specifics of this parade, you could still draw an experience in Carnival and other types of situations to hopefully have a good plan with regard to the traffic, I would assume.
Well, traffic, we will always have the issue of traffic, and no matter which location you choose, traffic management will always be a part of it. There's nothing significant about the Queen's Park Savannah in terms of location. It's just the space allotted. It's just the space. You have a lot of space to work with, to put all the whatever infrastructure you're going to use. However, and let me be specific, not the Queen's Park Savannah specifically, NCC and the grandstand is where the full aspects of it takes place. Now, they're using the Queen's Park Savannah east. I would say that is right. Okay, Queen's Park east, west, right? Queen's Park east. So they're using Queen's Park east space that's in front of the residence, president residence. So that space they're going to use there. There's already access points to that area, and they're talking about the space. They're going to use this space. So it's not the entire Queen's Park Savannah that's been utilized. It's a space. So then that argument or that discussion, I should say, or instead the argument, a discussion about space can be utilized at any of the other venues. That could happen at the Etihad ground. That could happen in Aramway Savannah. The Independence could happen at Mandela Park. There's enough space on that park for that to happen. It could happen in a number of parks in South, South and Central. So it's the space in the ground. What we are accustomed to, and it is because we want to have it in Port of Spain. No matter where the location, you have any location, the people, the persons, if that is the case, the persons will go there. But Independence in Port of Spain has two elements. They're talking about the parade and then the street parade. The street parade is what a lot of persons, is the party atmosphere, go down to Tragrate, go down Arpita Avenue, Tragrate Road, back to the, and the end point is at the police academy. So you see, those type of logistics you have to look at. It's unique to the area, but I am saying that it can happen anywhere if we choose to. And God forbid, if a circumstance puts that area in a position that is not able to carry out have the independence for whatever reason, let's say for whatever reason that location is no longer viable. Are we going to say, listen, because this location is not viable, independence will not happen? Independence will not happen. We'll have to relocate and find another area. May not be 100% suitable at the exact size and space allotment for everything, but hey, we will set it because independence is bigger than the location. It's a national event. It's it's independence. Is the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. It's our Independence Day.
Well, my fear.
So I don't see the issue. I can't see.
Go ahead. Oh, my fear is that I don't know if we. Really...
No. I'll say I don't see.
Again, some delay.
I didn't hear.
So, sorry. No,
yeah,
so I'm not sure, but there's some delay. That's why we have the crosstalk. I don't know if you want to finish your point because it seems you're back, hopefully.
No, I was just, I finished. I was just, I completed. I was saying I just didn't see an issue.
The thing is, I do feel we do not give it the reverence it deserves. The identifying of oneself as a national of this country is more like it's kind of like, well, I live here, as opposed to I am a Trinbagonian, right? It's one of the things that you could hate them because to the rest of us it comes across as arrogant. But this is one of the things where, and it's not America alone, there are other countries, particularly in Europe and other parts of the world, where they have a strong sense of national identity. I think Germany, to some extent France, various parts of Northern Europe, right? To some degree Italy. England, I'm not just so sure. I feel like they're not dealing with multiculturalism and national identity. They're having issues with those two things kind of clashing, right? And perhaps we also have that same issue, multiculturalism and national identity, because we have a combination of who views themselves as this race first, or this religion first, or this culture first, or this political party first, and doesn't really identify themselves as a citizen of a nation and have that national pride. And I think it would be easy for people to dismiss what you just said about the importance of Independence Day. And it then spills over to a lot of things. And because of that, it's easy to disregard Independence Day. It's easy to cheapen Independence Day. And then now, some of the things that becomes harder are things like national security, because when you don't, I mean, with policing, if you are not close with the community is not going to protect each other if the community is not close. If the community is not close, you don't have an incentive to, hey, check on your neighbor. Hey, I hear something going on over by his house, her house. Let me make a call. Let me try and get the police. Let me give evidence. I don't want to see my friend get hurt. But that same mentality kind of goes out larger, where if we don't view ourselves as all being Trinbagonians. When do you know what hits the fan? Who's gonna stand and be counted and support each other, and who's gonna take the bag and you know, see for the safeguard themselves? Because now I guess we could get to one of the points. But respond first.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I like when you mention the word national unity, and we look at race and religion. I don't want to upset or go on a tangent. But I just read today, I was reading some comments about TNTech, and I wanted to highlight this, that TNTech is celebrating 80 years, and part of the 80 years commemoration, they are giving out jerseys to their staff. TNTech colors are black and yellow. All of a sudden, you have MP Marvin Gonzalez, talking about it is not national, and it should not have been, the colors doesn't reflect XY. Sean, our national colors are red, white, and black. There's no issue about that. PNM chose red as their symbolic color, the party's color. So it doesn't mean that anybody who wear red at some point in time are associated politically with PNM or any party. When they were in government, there was an issue with colors, the colors that persons were wearing. All of a sudden, because the UNC is in government, yellow becomes political. Let's be real, man. I upset about that because I pissed about it. I can't understand these speculative issues we're talking about. Right? Yes, colors. We talk about, we have issues about race, religion. We reached down. Trinidad and Tobago reached we're not celebrating our independence, and we're talking about the color and what the color and who the color represents, which party. Our national color is red, white, and black. What does red stand for? What does black stand for? And what does white stand for? We lost the significance of what our colors meant on our national flag. I didn't know that if I wear a red jersey or wear a yellow jersey, I'm politically affiliated to somebody. That is why I wear something black.
I almost wore.
Are we going to wait now, or are we going to go down the road? Are we tangent to a road that any single color that we wear now, we are associated with a political party or we anti-party or anti-political party? Come on, man.
Here's the unfortunate reality. I understand where you're coming from, but I have a red and white pinstripe shirt, right? And I, at times, do consider when I wear that, I usually wear with my black jacket, and it's not necessarily fashioned in a stylized way to even though it's the national colors, it doesn't the style of it doesn't necessarily suggest the national flag. I recognize the fact that as a red shirt, it has white stripes, it's red and white striped, but it is the predominant color that catches the eye is red. I understand that people will look at that and say, well, Sean is wearing red, and what that means, right? In Jamaica, you dare not wear the wrong color in the wrong neighborhood during elections. I don't know if you could wear it other times of the year, but definitely not during elections, right?
I agree.
So the thing is, how I looked at it was, I thought it was a ridiculous point to be made in general. I didn't necessarily think Marvin was 100% wrong if there was an established tradition of wearing national colors the Friday before Independence Day or the day before Independence Day. But I did recognize the fact that we are debating the colors of what people wear. And we have descended into who wearing what color and the symbolism of it and the nonsense of it all, right? And the pettiness of it all. Because somebody is being petty. Even if you believe Marvin, the other side's being petty. If you don't believe Marvin, well, Marvin is being petty. Which means somebody's being petty. But the sad reality is, people view politics in that lens of, well, what color you're wearing, and what color you're wearing on TV, and what color you're wearing on a symbolic day. And I guess part of it comes back down to, well, when party politics has such not just preference, but predominance in our mindset and not our national identity, now all of a sudden you wear yellow. That's making a statement without saying a word now, right? Remember, yellow is the code, right? And PNM is red and ready. And I always thought it to be both brilliant and a little unfair that PNM picked a color that's in the national colors, right? Because by default, you wear red now. That's why you shouldn't wear red with any kind of yellow or orange to suggest Isibalize, right? You should mix some white and black in with it to try to make your stance clear. But I did find it was brilliant, you know, a national color, the main one that stands out, that's your party color. How convenient, right? But unfortunately, people will view things that way because we're so caught up with the politics and who we identify with and all of that. And we are not necessarily considering, yeah, but we're all Trinbagonians, right? And the thing is, if that was at the forefront, our Trinbagonian identity, then these things would be relegated to a much more minor part of our consciousness as they should be, but unfortunately it's not. We are so caught up in the politics, and too many of our people view those things. If a PNM member went on TV in a yellow shirt, Lord only knows what would happen. If I wear a yellow shirt for a whole week, Lord only knows what will happen. Or if I wear a red shirt for a whole week, Lord only knows what would happen. Because I almost wore, I knew we were going to talk about independence. I almost wore my red and white shirt, and I said, well, I'll wear it tomorrow. Let me not wear it today, right? Because my last show before Independence Day is tomorrow. But whenever I have anything red, it's like, I don't own much yellow. I don't own much red, but I do have a couple. And I kind of look at them wary sometimes because I don't want people to think, oh, I'm trying to make a statement that I'm supporting the PNM on this issue. There are certain days where I know I'm going to talk about something, I avoid my 2 red shirts. I cannot wear them during those topics because it will come across a certain way.
And I agree with you. I have a nice red and green colored tie. It feeds into each other. I have a yellow tie that has some black in it. It's like it looks like a beach checkered something, and subconsciously I decide whether I can wear it or don't wear it because the statement for how people look at it and how they look at the colors and whether or not who you're affiliated with. So I tend to go, I mean, be neutral in terms of the type of ties that I want to wear. And it's unfortunate that we are in this situation, but the reality is there. The colors are so associated because, as I say, yellow is the code, red be ready. I have no issue with the PNM choosing red. They could have chosen red, white, or black, or any other color they choose. My issue is that we should not, once we are not in election mode, and we are not canvassing, and politics is not in the main agenda in election. When I would say politics is not the main agenda, where emotions are so high, people know that around that time, colors represent parties that you're supporting. So apart from that, it should never be an issue. This is me. I might be naive, but it should never be an issue for us to be arguing about this or making an issue about this. The bigger issue, the bigger thing is that they should congratulate ICNTT and applaud them, the entire management, for the stands that they make. It's 80 years of celebration, of 80 years, and they commemorated it by giving their color. Their color is black and is a yellow with black. We just go anywhere. It's yellow and black. It's a light bulb. Yellow is a light bulb, right? And that is what they use. So I don't have an issue that Spain Corporation is red.
I would
so everything that.
I mean, this is me being a little bit nitpicky, but it could have been black polos. And,
it could have been?
It could have been black polos. And I think I would have, if I was a TNTech worker, I would make more use out of a black polo, just saying. But I understand, it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, so I could agree with you in that context, that if you're given a black polo with the logo, fair enough. We can use that. I can use any. But
well, so consider this. Consider this. If I was TNTech's management, I would consider the safer thing to do is not put out yellow polos. I don't know if they are giving out the polos or if these polos are bought by the workers from before, but not have yellow polos. Try to have black polos instead, so that you are neutral.
So you see, this is where we.
But that's the safer thing.
So you see, Sean, and this is why I'm saying we have to look. So the conversation now is conversation has now. We're going down this rabbit hole, but we're talking about colors and how it reflects political affiliation. A decision. Let's put the decision or argument's sake. For the argument's sake, that they decide to use yellow, they use their colors.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, it is significant. There's another political party with it. But I can argue with this. What about other ministries and other states that has state enterprises that have red, white, or black? Let's say red as their color. Is that an issue for them? Should that be an issue for them now? Or is it that if they wear this now, use a red and put their logo on a red, it becomes political? So you have a UNC government could argue and say, listen to me, you're not supposed to wear red, because why? We in the government, our color is yellow, or they have to wear yellow. I think we should, this is just me, but I find this issue is ridiculous. It is extremely ridiculous. And I am saying that Mr. Marvin Gonzalez, that's a very petty issue, right? It's a very petty issue. And it's just to get political gains because they want to raise some political agenda with respect to that. Because everything right now is politics. Colors is politics, race is race. Everything that this administration do is political for the next general election. Because PNM is going to try everything to keep on the front burner all the issues. Because at the end of the day, PNM is sorry, I shouldn't say PNM. The opposition, let me be political correct. The opposition main objective is to ensure on the next general election they have the upper hand. So I have no problem with how you bring it across, but come on, let's be real.
Yeah,
that shouldn't be that is not an issue for me.
The sad reality is, well, first of all, there's a sensitivity with regards to politics and any sort of indicators of allegiances of workforces for any public entity. I hear what you're saying. I think, though, things like public utilities and state-owned companies are different to, say, corporations. I don't necessarily care if a corporation has red or yellow, but like TSCT is teal and purple, and I'm like, yes, brilliant. Stick with that. Be not whatever red and yellow is. Don't do that, right? Unfortunately, TNTech yellow is a natural color. I get it, right? It is what it is.
John, a color of a light bulb,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
lightning is,
But
it's internationally recognized as yellow.
The thing is, and this is where the government, not that I necessarily think we have to blame them for this, but they do need to at least identify the fact that since they canceled independence last year and it was a whole thing, not that anything came out of it, but it was a thing in the media and debated for a while.
Yeah.
It turned Independence Day celebrations political. Commentary on Dr. Eric Williams at and around the same time probably did more to make it seem to be some kind of pseudo-political issue. I don't necessarily even know what the issue is. I just know that it's politically charged. And we're in a situation, unfortunately, where because of certain missteps by the government, and which is funny, I do find that there's also the difficulty of the moment, and I find it very interesting that we have two parties jockeying for position to kind of, you want to be in power, but then if you're in power, technically you kind of have to be the NAR and give people the bitter medicine, which they might not like. So it's interesting who is jockeying for position to have to take on that role. But all now, so I feel as though because the government has shown too much weakness, it has given the opposition a chance now, and it has put both parties back in campaigning mode far too early. And it has caused things to be far too unstable because it has destabilized, as we've seen recently, the opposition, right? It has caused them to veer off course from trying to rebuild themselves because the government has made certain public communication missteps, and some you could debate on the severity of the public policy missteps, but definitely the communication missteps. And there are a lot of people who are not liking the situation, and it's causing the whole thing to, where we were with the PNM like 2 years before the election, seemingly that's where we are with the current government now, 1.5 years from the last election. So we're in this kind of weird spot where the campaigning will start sooner rather than later, and everything will be an issue. Everything. And what the political parties need to be careful of, because this is the thing. This is why potentially it was a mistake for Marv Gonzalez to bring up this topic from this point of view. If you say everything is a problem, people ain't going to remember everything. And you run the risk of them, the nonsense stuff is what's going to occupy space in your brain, and the real issues might be forgotten. So this is not really going to be something that, yes, I don't know if it'll turn into something in the future, but you could deal with it then. This is not the most pressing issue. There are other issues that should be at the forefront, that should be occupying the minds of the people, that should be causing people to think, hey, what's going on here? What do I not like? What do I see? What would I like it to be? How do I communicate that responsibly to the politicians? And it's not being done. And from that respect, I could fully understand what you're saying. But the reason why Marvin Gonzalez could say it is in no small part because that is the immaturity of our politics and how we engage with it. And we do it to ourselves. And it's sad because I guess you could say that also ties back into what I was saying with regards to Independence Day and national identity. Right? We're so caught up with schoolyard fighting politics, right? That higher ideals like a sense of pride in one's nation and sense of duty towards one nation, at times, you know, if it wasn't for the individual efforts of certain people, we would have no accomplishments to our names. You know, it's not because we as a nation accomplished anything, it's because Keshawn Walcott decided to throw a javelin really far. And Richard Thompson decided to run really fast. And Wendy decided to go up and be a spectacular Miss Universe contestant. Not because we as a nation have things in place that systemically creates and promotes excellence. Jamaica didn't just get lucky because Bolt was born in Jamaica. Yeah, he is an outlier, but they have repeatedly, right, churned out elite level athletes to win medals for their country, to bring fame and honor to their country systemically, because they systematize it. It's a machinery behind it. They're putting in the work and the effort to do it, so they're consistently getting the good results out of it. We don't get that. And,
I agree.
And I guess that will impact things, that will then impact things like security and crime fighting and how society interacts with each other.
Well, you see, this is the sad reality, and I keep saying, whether or not, and you just mentioned it, we are not mature enough as a nation to understand if we really, because we see independence as from a political perspective. Who was the party in the first party to go for the independence? What party they belong to? So independence is like is part of the political aspects of our history. Not that whether or not it was Dr. Eric Williams or anyone else, right? Thankfully, that is how it was. It was Dr. Eric Williams. We could not have, that history could not have been changed in anything that he was part and parcel of the history of Trinidad and Tobago, and he will always be part of the history of Trinidad and Tobago, right? It just so happened that he was an African. So what's wrong with that? Does it mean that Trinidad and Tobago is an African country? Is it that's how we're looking at it? So let's bypass that. The significance of it is that we got our independence. Independence was not given to one political party, one race in Trinidad and Tobago. It was given to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago as an entire body. So up to now, right, 60 plus years in the future, we still arguing this whole issue about party and race. We don't hold our independence, as you say, that we are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm proud to be independent, an independent nation, and don't see independence as political. We have administration during independence. We have administration, and we have opposition members who don't want to come to independence parade. Independence parade is not a government event. It is bigger than the government, any government, I should say, any administration. It's independence of Trinidad and Tobago. So I would hope all those who believe that, because opposition and administration, on that day, I am hopeful that at least Trinidad and Tobago could come together and celebrate independence as one. Put aside everything. Look at what our motto is, right? Our watchword. Even if on that day we acknowledge those watchwords and we live that day, that one day. If it's one day out of the year, we want to be acknowledging those watchwords. As on Independence Day, let's do that. If you do it afterwards, no problem. But on that day, it should never be politically affiliated to anything. It's Independence Day, Trinidad and Tobago. Right? And when you come out under there and wear your red, white, and black, you wear red, white, and black. You're not wearing any political color, any party color. You are wearing the color that represents Trinidad and Tobago. That's the color of our flag. And we should be proud to be wearing that anytime, not only Independence Day. That's how I believe we should be, my opinion about it, because I am fed up about this thing about every time it's about race, religion, color. Oh, sometimes I just really wonder if we just keep in this cycle, just keep spinning in this cycle. And we're not realizing that time is going by and we have to progress. We have to progress and mature. We're talking maturity. Maturity as a nation means that we have to accept and acknowledge some of these issues and work towards making it better, not just every year keeping these issues on the front burner and not trying to address it, and some things that don't need to be addressed don't need to be acknowledged in any significant way, that we can just, hey, these things are not part of Trinidad and Tobago, but we just keep going around the circle.
The thing is, these divisions, right, this tendency to want people to be more devoted to party than country, or race or religion than country, that's being used to fuel the petty politics that, to be quite frank, most of our politicians, seemingly, they are not necessarily skilled at anything else, any other version of politics, any other higher level functions. And our population, because this is what we're accustomed to, doesn't know how to get out of the cycle, doesn't know what to demand for, how to demand for more, what else they could do except the norm, except the business as usual. This is what we're accustomed to, this is what we're going to do. Now, because it's an issue for me, I find that it's tolerated too much. That's why MPs are not actually doing their job, and people demand from the MPs things that are technically not fully their job. Their main job is to represent us in Parliament. Their main job is to be someone who we could go to if we need things to be done in the constituency, but they can only then pass it on to the local government body. They don't have a budget to do anything, right? But instead of questioning, why is it you only toe the party line in Parliament? You don't necessarily represent me, your constituent, in Parliament. We're caught up with the material things, not realizing the long-term implications of legislative representation or lack thereof and what that means. Because not only do we allow people, I think, agree, yes, you as a UNC, you as a PNM, you vote with your party. Might not be in the best interest of your constituency. Did you ever consider that? But we don't understand what party politics is and what it's doing to us in this form. And here's the thing. You mentioned earlier, and I agree with you, but you mentioned earlier, we are not close to terrorism. We are nowhere close to anyone doing anything crazy and nuts. And I agree with you. But it's one of those things where it's like, if not but for the grace of God, God is a Trini, and the fact that seemingly, this is one area where our laissez-faire, lazy attitude, Trini time, you know, people might say they want to do something, but they'll never actually get there to do anything. Typical Trini, right? This is one area where it might work for us. But here's the thing, yeah. the politics is so ugly at times. I am waiting with bated breath because I have seen where it leads in North America. We have seen political violence recently in America, right? And it's fortunate that it did not grow, because not only could it have caused instability in North America, which is our major trading partner, but we love to import things with regards to politics from North America. And when you have somebody on a podcast connected to the opposition or the government saying that the other side is evil and wicked and vile, and basically saying such absolute terms, somebody might be convinced, you're right, something needs to be done about these people. And we have way too much guns, and we have way too low of a murder detection rate to dissuade anyone from doing anything stupid. And dare I say, I'll just say it like this, I was never impressed by the personal security apparatus of our government, for ministers and the prime minister. It's just that, for the most part, who's going to actually want to do anything like that, take that risk? But now, given if you have the wrong political climate, and we might get there someday, people who are ideologically motivated, they don't care if they get caught. And that's even scarier for law enforcement, because how do you guard against an unknown, unseen threat that has no regard for their own personal safety? You know, so this is where I am constantly afraid that the politics is going to take what you said earlier, and what you said is true and has held true for decades, but it might cause certain people's mindsets to change in the wrong way and lead us down a dark path that I will never be ready for, and I hope I will never see, but I cannot naively say, oh, we'll never see it. I'm not willing to say
that is so true. That is so true. Realistically, we are nowhere close to what we are supposed to be when it comes to national security for major events of this nature. We get through by the grace of God. God is a tree. Well, so we keep saying. I hope that he keep his passport and his passport, right? And look over us. But the reality is that we don't pay much attention to national security when it comes to major events of this nature and how significant security is, especially for independence. When you have the number of state officials, a number of your law enforcement and national service providers are located in one area. A large population. It's on Independence Day in Port of Spain is a mini carnival because we love the party and the party atmosphere and the excitement of what we do, but we are also vulnerable to elements of like what you speak about. We are so vulnerable that there is no realistic way that you can mitigate some of those risks that we face. The sad reality, and if I put on my other hat, which is my disaster management and mass casualty management hat, we will have to make some hard decisions because when you have mass crowd events and some idiot with some agenda who has no issue, as you say, being caught, because being caught would make him or her a talking point, and they would have achieved the objective of being putting the agenda forward. Being caught is not an issue for them, right? Because they may want to be caught so they could still continue their agenda, right? Because the media will take the agenda and go all the way or run with it because they want to be in the forefront. That in itself is a frightening thought for many in national security and who have to ensure that these events are safe, because while persons are actually enjoying themselves on Independence Day for Carnival and all these major events that we have, there's always the risk. Sometimes the risks are so high that you can't even plan for those risks, because if you plan for those risks, it means that you're going to take away from the event what the event is supposed to be, because the limitations that you have to put in place to try and mitigate some of those risks, you don't even have manpower and resources to even put those things in place. So yes, I am optimistic, and sometimes I am hopeful for that side as a law enforcement personnel that it doesn't come. But as another professional who also deals with disaster management and mass casualty management, it's a reality that I normally we would face, and in planning and in our training, we train people to understand, hey, these are real risks that can happen. And over the years, we have seen a lot of different events or incidents that we believe happen in other countries that never happened before, and we get in small little indicators that, hey, those things can happen in Trinidad and Tobago. So yes, it's something that is very worrisome. But then again, do we really care about such a thing? Because the first thing that we will say, it's not happening to me. It don't happen here. It happens in other parts of the world. It can't happen in Trinidad. Anytime you sit down with that attitude, then you really lost the battle already, because it can happen in Trinidad and Tobago. And as you point out, there are a lot of firearms out there. There are a lot of different persons who have different agendas. Thankfully, some of them have not even, or I just say, get around to the time to act upon it, if they consider to act upon it. But the mindsets are there. The mindsets are there, right? So we have to be very cautious about that, even when we are going out there to enjoy ourselves.
Well, consider this radicalization. I think some people, we over-index the whole radicalization of the Chinese in Syria, and we're afraid of that. But radicalization doesn't need religion. You could be radicalized by some other form of ideology. One could argue it's not going to be long before climate people and other issues, whatever issue it is, the world seemingly is going down a path of just more radicalization, whether it's conservative versus liberal, gender issues, climate issues, whatever, and you're gonna see escalation potentially from both sides. But then on top of that, while you don't need religion for someone to be radicalized on an issue, religion is to some degree tied to the racial identities and then thus the political identities of people in the country. So it can, to some degree in a way, also play a part in someone being radicalized depending on the types of linkages and the messaging. I'm not saying the religion itself is trying to radicalize anybody, but because if the whole thing is, well, it's party versus party, and then we turn that race versus race, because one party is of one race and another party is of another race. And then that moves to, well, then one party is of one race that is predominantly this religion, and the other party is of another race that is predominantly this religion. And then, all of a sudden, some Yahoo might think that they got a message from God the wrong way. Yeah. Right? And I think what matters most, because a lot of people might say, I don't care about the safety of politicians. It's not just the politicians. These public events, there are far more members of the public than the politicians who could get caught in the crossfire, or worse, because obviously the focus of security will be the Prime Minister, the President first, etc., etc. But the vulnerable targets might be the members of the public, because there's just so much more of them and it's harder to safeguard them. And
exactly,
depending if anybody figures it out and figures out how to make their message coherent and whatever else they need to figure out to motivate them to do this crap, as you pointed out, it exists, the potential exists. And not but for the grace of God, it has not happened yet. And I'm not comfortable just depending on God being a Trini, because he does a reasonable job of protecting us from things on the outside, the hurricanes and whatnot. We haven't had a 7.4 earthquake here. It's always somewhere else. But the things that do harm us is us.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, the human element is one we look at. And I agree with you 100%. The historical context of radicalization from religion is just one part of being radicalized. Right now we have radicalization when it comes to environmental, I speak about climate. We also have technological radicalization, because AI is such a big thing now that people are kicking against the advancement of technology. We saw recently we had some cyber hacking. So we have people who are radicalized because they are the mindset that these type of things will take away from them, take away from their freedom, and it's a new form of slavery. In another oppressive conduct by oppression by the masses. So it only takes someone who has the ability to give the proper message to the individual, and the receiver must be such an individual that I received that message in the manner that which we're supposed to are receiving it and the interpretation, and I want to and I decided to act on it because this is where it is going, and that is simply and the reality. The reality of it is, and when I talked about religion, it is similar to religion because when persons speak on religion, they speak from an interpretation perspective or through the doctrines, and persons buy in wholesale into it, and they believe in what is being said, and they go by what is being said in what the holy books are saying, and this is how they operate. It speaks the same in terms of radicalization and other areas. So it is something that we have to be conscious about. We have to be conscious about it because these are part of this is an area that an area that sometimes we neglect and we don't understand that. Listen, not all persons who are being radicalized is from the perspective of religion or race or from politics. There are other agendas attached to it that we really not familiar with and not understanding how dangerous these individuals and what they're going through in their mind, right? Even persons can be radicalized from the perspective of country. I don't want anybody else coming in my country. I don't want anybody else. I believe and nationalism could be a form of so radicalized that I believe that I am the only person to be a citizen of X, Y, and Z, and anybody else who come in is a threat to me. That is how dangerous this thing called radicalization is. So it's part and parcel of our national security element. And
the thing is, I just want to point out, people are gonna hear one small part of what you said and assume that you mean that with regards to when you spoke about people, certain issues being perceived as slavery or it's being slavery. I just want to caution people. I'm pretty sure Ashraf is not trying to enter into debate on what new digital technology or procedure or whatever is actually digital slavery or not. He was just pointing out to the fact that this is how it might be framed and perceived by certain people. And when you use things like the word slavery, it's gonna foster certain emotions and motivate certain extreme reactions potentially. And that's the thing. What you mentioned there, it's almost as if politics is now the new religion. Politics or what we believe on certain issues, it doesn't have to be all. For anybody, it could just be one issue. And what we believe on that issue is almost like that's where the blind faith phenomenon occurs. This is why I believe on AI. You can't persuade me otherwise, and I'm going to wake myself up and be radicalized over it. It's almost like if it's a religion, where it's not about the evidence or debate or trying to find the truth, but it's about fear and blind belief or for whatever the cause is, and how that motivates people to do whatever it is they do. You'll see some things. I don't know what else to say. We'll probably see some things more and more. Part of it too is when we don't necessarily have anything to guard against externally, we tend to create issues internally. And I guess that's one of the things to try out. Since God is a Trinity and He shields us from everything externally, that might be why we cause so much problems for ourselves internally. For what it's worth, in the last few minutes left, we could open up the phone lines. I know this is not the usual day to have Ashraf join us. But you could call and have your say with regards to the Independence Day situation. And I guess the whole construction is still going to be controversial. My thing is, as long as it's temporary, I really don't see the problem. I don't understand what the big deal is. You swear they're putting another grandstand on the other end of the savannah, and they're paving like 2/3 of the savannah. I understand even one small patch of concrete is a precedent you don't want to set. But we ain't reached there yet. So I was like, hold on now. You have Beyonce in a concert in the Savannah. That's a whole big stage with lights and sound and speakers. And that's the first one I can remember. And ever since then, how many fests in the Savannah? They put all kind of structures up and take them down within a week. All kind of facilities and tents and fences and stage and lights and electronics and all kind of temporary floors and foundations, and then it's gone. So we do it for Carnival. Why we can't do it for Independence? I don't understand. If we saw cement trucks go down, Ashraf, then I would be like, yeah, because that is active playing field for most of the year for a lot of people. Right? So that would be a disruption. We have a caller? Sanford on the line. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Sean.
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Ali.
Morning.
One of the things that I think, and I've always had this idea, and I don't understand why it is that they can't see a way to bring the people together in a better way. Is we have a couple of celebrations. We have Indian Arrival Day. We have Emancipation Day. But that is not the be-all and end-all of Trinidad and Tobago. What happens on Indian Arrival Day, because of the time of the holiday, you have the school children dress in the traditional Indian way to go to school. But that is the only time, because of when it is, that you get participation of the young people, the largest population of young people who are in school. And I have always thought that we should have a national day. A day when school is out, when I say school is out, children are in school, and they are allowed to wear whatever the nationality is. Because we don't only have, as Nizam Mohammed said, we have 35% of the population that mixed all how. So we don't allow the Chinese, the Syrian, Lebanese, all the Portuguese people of those descents to come out and dress and let everybody celebrate together. Celebrate their history, but celebrate together as Trinidad and Tobago. And if it starts from the children, maybe the adults eventually will get on board and understand the rainbowness of Trinidad and Tobago. That's something I think we need to do. Because if you realize, we keep going between only two races in the country. And that, I think, is where, because the back and forth of the two races, like if let me say on two banks, and what happened in the center is that you're just getting a bigger divide as you're moving back and forth. Mm-hmm. And we need to get rid of that divide. Mm. So probably a national dress day might be something that we could try. We had one celebration for the Chinese people of the 200th anniversary, and then we threw them by the wayside. That was the end of that. But let's have something that incorporates everybody. And I don't want it wrong independence because, as I said, because I want the school children to participate, school is on vacation during that time. We need a time when school is not on vacation and we could have all the children. Mm. Have a good independence, gentlemen.
Thank you, caller. Yes, I do recall you saying something similar a while ago. Yeah, I think part of it is we don't do enough. I mean, when I was in primary school, I knew more about the motto and the Pledge of Allegiance and the anthem than any other time in my life. So we could make of that what you will. So I don't know. I mean, some might say indoctrinating kids, but I would say, I don't know if this is one time where I'm thinking national identity is somewhat important, guys. It's somewhat important. I'm not necessarily willing to cast it aside. And I don't necessarily see the harm as long as national identity, the nation is being run in a responsible manner. And that really just comes down to us, the voters, being more responsible with our democratic rights and privileges to vote. So, Ashraf, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I see it, and I agree with San Fernando. When I was in primary school, certain holidays they allow you to wear anything signal. Okay, when we have Eid al-Fitr, you wear your Muslim garb. When we have Diwali, you could come to school with that. So there's nothing in between to say, well, hey, listen, you could wear you can wear it. Only in emancipation, Indian arrival, you see the persons wear all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago choose which one, choose what to wear. So emancipation, everybody want to wear, everybody wearing emancipation, the African garb. Indian arrival, everybody wearing Indian arrival. It doesn't matter who you are. You wear it because it's in arrival. And I agree. We are much more than just two races or two race and two set of cultures that make up Trinidad and Tobago. There are a lot of different persons from different areas across the world that came to Trinidad and Tobago and have put their roots in Trinidad and Tobago and have added to our cultural big pot of pilau that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. They add their own flavor to our pot. So our pot is bigger than just two. There's two sides of.
At the catcher, we have a Rima waiting on the line. Caller, are you there?
Oh.
Yeah, Sean Michael Small. Good morning to you, Mr. Ashraf and Talking Point Nation.
Morning.
Now, I have a question for Mr. Ashraf, right? Years ago, when we first started the Operation Weed Eater, did we have U.S. troops on the ground here with Trinidad and Tobago police officers and defense officers going around in helicopters cutting down the marijuana fields, especially in Moruga? That's a question for him. But the question for you is looking at the state of the economy, right?
They had personnel.
But you had started that before you started the discussion here.
And U.S. troops were not just, wasn't U.S.
And
hold on, Ash.
What's that?
No, you hearing me?
Yeah.
All right. You know, because I saw muted come up on it now.
Oh.
Now, Dr. Rowley said the government dollar is 50 cents for wages, salaries, transfers, and subsidies, 30 cents for debt repayment, and 20 cents for development. So 1/5 of your budget is supposed to go for development, right? We are in August, going to September, which is the last month of the government year. And I would like you to identify to me what were the development works that we would have had for this $10 to $12 billion. Because all I see is really the police posts, MPOPs, and Khadija, I mean cleaning drains. And for me, the problem that facing us, the citizens, of which we're getting 1,000,001 distractions, are as follows. Drug shortages in the hospital, no potholes and road repairs. The water supply is staying the same, but we want to build more houses. Youth programs being shut down or curtailed. Battery funds still outstanding. The book grant still outstanding. It didn't start yet, and the school is a week and a half away. School repair started this month. Outstanding wage negotiations and back pay. And finally, the light poles that are not being repaired. So I would like to find out, where this $10 to $12 billion going, because the steel mill, that is not, government not involved in that. The data centers, the same thing. The refinery, the same thing. What I have seen is photo ops with P&M projects A&R Robinson Airport, the Central Block, and these things. The only thing I would have seen is the fire station at the refurbished in Princestown, and it's temporary, it's not even permanent. Michael Small. Since April, the Prime Minister said a delegation going Caracas soon. We going to September. What is really going on in this place? Good program as usual. Thank you. I'm going to listen up here.
Thanks, caller. Ashraf, if you want to respond to the Operation Weed Eater. Hello?
Yeah, remember those weren't really U.S. troops. They weren't really U.S. troops per se. They are part and parcel of the drug enforcement agency. So they are law enforcement agency. So you have to be careful with saying U.S. troops because soldiers cannot come in, can't be on the ground in Trinidad and operate. But law enforcement agencies is a different. Has always been working in partnership have partnership with Trinidad and Tobago up in these operations. The Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force is different from any other defense force or army personnel. This is the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, and we have a collaboration with them and a partnership working with them. So yes, it's not nitpicking, but there was always collaboration with foreign entities in Trinidad and Tobago when it comes to law enforcement. So it's part and parcel of it.
Now, here's the thing. With regards to development, that might, I don't know if that's something enshrined in law, or if that was just Dr. Rowley's philosophy at the time. I will say this, there are certain things that I think money had to have been spent on that I could understand if that's going to chew up a lot of liquidity. Maintenance of national security, major assets like the Coast Guard vessels, because under the PNM it seemed as though maintenance was not being done. Patrols were not going out. And at least there was one high-profile instance of the Coast Guard rescuing a kidnapping victim, right? To what degree are they actually patrolling? I don't know for sure. Public utility expansion works, I think, are ongoing. Part of the question is how much of that was already in the works from the previous administration and how many of that are new initiatives. But even if it was previous work, the financing might still be coming out of more recent budgets, right? So there is that. School repairs. I'll say it again. Now that we've had a year under UNC budget, because school repairs are in part tied to financial resources, right? How successful, how extensive they could be, the timing, etc. And as you pointed out, they might have started this month, which is crazy. Now would be the time for the former Minister of Education to maybe say something about schools not being ready. Not last year, when it was too soon. That, of course, I don't know, that is not necessarily developmental expenditure, and I don't think there are any new schools, but it might be one of those things that you divert your flexible liquidity towards. And then, of course, there's public infrastructure repair, which again, things like street lights and certain road repairs and like the emergency work with regards to the pipeline and Cascade and stuff like that. How much is that also taking liquidity? Yes, the salaries, the 10%, that's taking extra liquidity out of the budget. The refinery technically is a government asset. So the government is involved in the situation. And it was used as collateral to service certain debts. And the debts potentially need to be paid off before you try to sell it. Otherwise, it's going to be one hell of a mess. And that might cause the government to have to spend quite a bit of money, unless they could get someone to agree to pay that, to include that in part of the purchase price, which I doubt. Or the government would have to spend a lot of money refurbishing the refinery to be fit for purpose. I don't think you could saddle the buyer with both. You might be able to saddle the buyer with some or all of one. And then there's issues with CDAP. The issues with CDAP might be more long-term and might be a bad sign of future consequences to come, but I don't know for sure. I can't verify that. That was just something that was hypothesized, I guess you could say, to me. We have Arima on the line. Caller, good morning. Caller gone. Okay. We're running out of time anyway, but Ashraf, I have something to point out. With regards to colors, he's done it again. I won't say who. PRO of the UNC, he's done it again. There's an interesting post today, and I just want to point out the unnecessary, the lack of necessity of it all. I don't know if you have it. Yeah. So he points out the former flag of Trinidad and Tobago as a British colony, and I won't necessarily call him up by name because I don't want to make this a personal thing, but a member of the UNC asked the question, why did the national colors change from blue to red? And in my mind, I just feel as though this seems so unnecessary, right? I have to believe that there are some people that are going to take this seriously, but technically speaking, blue, I believe, is the color of British colonies. So at the very least, I could see why we didn't necessarily want to stick with blue, because I assume he's saying it's red, white, and blue, right? But when you look at a lot of colonial flags and former colonial flags, if you look at the flag of, I believe, Australia, New Zealand, right? You have the Union Jack in the corner, you have a blue field, and whatever else comes in the blue field will vary from place to place. And I guess the whole thing about us being independent and then a republic, why would we keep the same colors is a reasonable question to counteract. So I'm not entirely sure exactly what the UNC is trying to achieve with this. But I just, Ashraf, I just had to point it out just to show you this thing about colors, man. This thing about colors, they will find any angle to try to make an argument. I don't know what you have to say about this. We could have been red, white, and blue.
Sometimes there is issues that sometimes there's issues that it's like an argument. When one side is arguing, in order for it to become an argument, somebody has to give a counter argument. If that person continues along one argument themselves, you argue with yourself. So in this situation, this is just me. So Marvin Gonzalez made a statement about the colors of ICNTT and the color in terms of yellow, because it's close to independence is significant. In my opinion, there is issue. We're talking ICNTT, we're talking independence. Case closed. Red, white, and black is the colors of Trinidad and Tobago. How our flag is designed is not designed the same way as any other flag of other nations who also have red, white, and black. So there is no issue with the three different colors that we have. Is it we're going to make it a big political issue that because we chose red? For independence, a political party chose red. Nothing wrong with that. You choose which one in color. They could have chosen any color they chose, but they chose red. Fair enough. My argument, my whole issue was is how at this point in time you're using because of independence, and we using the color yellow, which is for a state agency that is significant, that is their color, that color was assigned to them. It should not have been put together from a political perspective. Now the UNC, whoever this individual, I don't know who the post is, trying to give a counter argument, and that counter argument will ask for another counter argument. Sometimes you just leave things to lie. It does not require any comment again. But as you say, you have an argument on both sides now. So now it becomes an issue. Everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon about this color. Sean,
okay, so
I think we don't have enough in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is from the UNC PRO. I'll say that, Dr. Craig Mayhew. I have more to say because yes, it is directly tied to the Marvin Gonzalez statements on ICNTT. It is directly tied. But we do have a last call on the line. We'll take the call first. Caller, good morning. You're on the air?
Morning, brother.
Morning.
All the blessings to you and your host. Warning. Red, white, and black. Plenty history behind it. Leave it alone. Coat of arms, the best in the world. Leave it alone. The pan, okay. The hummingbird on top with the Morich palm, indigenous people. Right? Leave those things alone. CPEP, reforestation, youth programs, road fixing, water leaks, and other things, fix that. 10%, fix that. Give my officers and them more money in their pocket. Right? And another important thing, whoever listening, Mr. Alexander, that police post where the PNM they keep their big meeting, those fellas and them could be set up. There's 2 rivers both sides of it. AR-15 hitting any point. Know what all you're doing. Don't put up maps where you all put in these police posts. Mistake number 1. Right? Get on with these things that the poor people here. And those cases we have with ministers to pay back the poor people money. Good day.
Thank you, Gola. I will say this, you can't really keep the location of the police post a secret. The criminals will figure it out. If they want to figure it out, they'll figure it out, right? However they do it, I don't know. But they will. Ashraf, I do remember when asked how strong these posts will be constructed, the minister's response was that the framing will be strong, which I assume means you can't just drive a car through the building. But when asked if the buildings were bulletproof, I think he reiterated the fact that the framing will be strong. So I don't know if that's going to be a thing or not. I don't know how well constructed they are. I don't know if 556 or 762 could go through the cinder blocks. I don't expect them to. But it's interesting that the caller brought that up, concerns for the police post being attacked. If that happens, then we're in a whole new ball game, because I don't know if we're ready for that kind of situation where the police are going to take fire on a police army post.
That's a whole different conversation. Should that ever happen? But I understand what the caller is saying, the vulnerability of the locations for the police post. All right, so the locations in the context of what you're saying in the assessment, there's a lot of vulnerability. But anywhere you put a police post or anything like that, even mobile patrol anywhere, sitting in a particular location, they are vulnerable to a possible attack. So we have to be careful with the conversation about how vulnerable it is in every different location, because there will never be the most secure location that they will have. But if we're talking about attack on state facilities, then hey, we have a little more problems. And I don't want to go back to my first statement that we're on the negative line in the scale from 5 going down to 0 when it comes to threats and attacks like that. I want it to be on that scale and no way beyond the 5 scale to the 10 scale. So I really hoping that we stay on that scale, the lower down the scale, John, because that is a conversation I don't think I want to have anytime soon or be experiencing it anytime soon. It's not something that we really want to experience. It could happen, but I don't think we want to have that type of experience in Trinidad and Tobago at this point in time, or anytime soon, I should say.
Now, I want to go back to the whole flag color debate, because Dr. Mayhew, I think, is not necessarily entering into this topic in the most effective way. Because he asked, why did the PNM change the Trinidad and Tobago flag from blue to red? But if we go back, if we could just put up the flags once again, the Union Jack in the corner, there's red in the flag already. Technically, we went from red, white, and blue, with blue being the predominant color, to red, white, and black, with red being the predominant color. So entirely wrong. But I think part of it was, if you want to be independent, why would you want to stay true to the past symbols, right? I think there's, to some extent, New Zealand and Australia, they have a great identity, self-identity in line with Britain than we do. And their flag, in a way, has a certain symbolism for their reality. Whereas I feel as though our flag reflects more on our colonial past than our independent future. But at the end of the day, red was always going to be a color. Now, you might argue that red seemingly is the predominant color. I would say technically not, in the sense of, to me, red on its own might mean PNM, but to me, red, white, and black is supposed to mean a certain thing. And forgive me, but the committee included artists, and I think the artists rightfully identified the fact that probably the best color to be the main dominant field would be the red, as opposed to the white and black. The white and black for the flag being accent colors. But outside of the flag, that's the package. So, to me, it's nitpicking.
It's nitpicking down to the smallest level, and I expected this level of conversation to come out, because somebody is going to jump on the bandwagon. Unfortunately, an individual like Dr. Mehu jumped into it, and he did in fact jump into something earlier, later down, that he should not go down there, because he started arguing about some things about the last real issue where he kind of caused some problems with how he made some statements about Dr. Eric Williams and how we become independent and all of that, independency and all of that. That is an issue by itself. But my thing about it is that it's not about red, white, and black. The color itself, red, white, and black, the color, it's a color. It's what we ascribe the color and what it signifies to Trinidad and Tobago. In red color, people, there's a connotation that red is a color of danger. True? So if red is also a color of danger, would red also be color that we want to put that Trinidad and Tobago is danger? No. Red was talking about strength. Right? So there's also a connotation about signifies to a nation. The committee chose red and said, listen, this is what red signifies to us. It didn't say red is PNM. Let me just be careful, be cautious here. It never said red is PNM. Right? The party chose red as their color. And I have no problem with any party choosing any color for them. The UNC chose yellow because it signifies the rising sun, and the sun is yellowish. I wouldn't say yellow because there are several grades of, shades of yellow, right? So I would say yellowish. There are several shades of red at the same time, which is the correct red we're talking about. So we can nitpick this down to the different shades of red, shade of yellow, but my whole thing about it is this. When I heard that first statement, Marvin Gonzalez, I knew for a fact that this conversation has gone into a different realm when he's talking about color.
I don't know if we lost Ashraf there. I'll say this quick because we have to wrap. There were times when I would complain about things Dr. Keith Rowley would say. This is long before Talking Point.
Shall we have a comment like this?
Oh, sorry, Ashraf. We lost you there for a sec, but we're wrapping up. We have to wrap up. I was just going to say, there were times when Dr. Keith Rowley would say things that I disagreed with, and someone had to tell me, Dr. Keith Rowley's not speaking to you. He's speaking to the masses. He's speaking to the base. I think Dr. Mehu is way smarter than these comments. I very much am confident in his intelligence and ability. The political class has low expectations for parts of the population. And I believe very often they speak to those low expectations. And that's what this is. And the sad reality is we need to understand something. We are supposed to be 98% literate, and our education is free, and our education system is supposed to be so great. And yet, think about it. Think about who talks down to the public, who talks down to people, who has low expectations for the masses. And then really ask yourselves, what are we doing with regards to educating our population? Are we really accomplishing that? Are we really putting our people in the best position to succeed? Because the politics of the day says you have to say nonsense to get through to at least a part of the population, and a not small part of the population, because that's what they would understand. That's what the politics are saying. So that's what this, to some degree, right, is saying. This whole petty descent that we have now reached to, where it's Independence Day and we have varying color debates. As Ashraf said, we could debate on the shades. All right, thanks to the callers. Thanks, Ashraf, for joining me. This is Talking Point on WSND Content Capital, reminding you to stay safe, have a good day, remember your allegiance to the Republic and to each other. I'll give my Independence Day message tomorrow. But until then, it's nice to be nice. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Good day and welcome to this week's episode of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. I am your host, Rondell Donowa, and once again, I am happy to bring the law and you. Of course, you can stream us on the World Wide Web at wesncc.com, as well as all social media platforms. So today we have a topic that is often underlooked, and it's called environmental law, the effectiveness of environmental laws in Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, you know, we do have legislation, we do have a body. However, is it sufficient? Do we know that climate change is something that is real, global warming is real? And how well are we dealing with sustainable development? Now, I have a guest in studio this morning. Her name is Mrs. Giselle Lando Birmingham, and she's a private practitioner. She's an attorney at law, of course, having been admitted to the bar over 10 years ago. Giselle holds a Master of Business Administration in Sustainable Energy Management with distinction from the Arthur Lockjack Graduate School of Business. And she's an adjunct lecturer for climate change issues and environmental impact assessments for energy projects at the Arthur Lockjack. Now, Giselle is a scholarship recipient and has worked at the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions, Legal Aid and Advisory Authority, and the Environmental Management Authority as Corporate Secretary Legal Officer 3. Giselle is also from South, and she is a colleague of mine. So I say good morning, Giselle.
Good morning, Mr. Donowa. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
You could call me Rondell, of course.
Hi, Rondell.
How are you this morning?
I'm great, I'm great.
All right,
Thank you so much.
So, I mean, you're a private practitioner. You have extensive knowledge in environmental law. As